So welcome in everybody. My name is Corey Stopka. I'm past Grand President and Nominations Chair. So this is our second version of the Meet the Candidates events. So we have we've done a board one earlier on this week, and we've had the other provinces go earlier today. So we got the Western Province folks that are able to join us here tonight. So intent here is to share with everybody who you are, why you're running, answer some questions. We have some questions that have been pre-prepared and sent to the candidates that we will go through this evening, and intent is that we will make sure we have some time throughout the end of the event for other folks to ask questions as well. If you do have any questions, feel free to toss those in the chat. I'll take a look at those and ask those as time moves on. So what we will do to get started is each of the candidates, so we have Sam and Davis here tonight, we will have them give just a minute or so introduction of themselves. Feel free to share personal, fraternal, career background, anything that you would like to share on that side of things. And then we'll go into those questions that I've got planned for all of you. And I'll also have a couple general reminders at the end for the candidates and just everybody in general. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. And we'll just alternate between Davis and Sam on who goes first. So Sam, do you want to get us started? Tell us, what's your why in wanting to, or that's the first question. Just kidding. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sam.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Sam Clark. I am a candidate for the Pacific Northwest RVP region. Professionally, I am currently located in Seattle and working for Amazon. I work on the Alexa side of the world, and I'm currently a technical program manager, primarily focused in some pretty deep AI and science areas, but have kind of worked in a variety of different IT business focused worlds over the past 10 years. Fraternally, I currently serve as the Western Provinces Awards Chair, and previously was also serving as the RVP for several years and took a couple years break for personal reasons. And prior to that was a district director here for one of our chapters in Seattle as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for that background, and excited for you and Davis to be willing and able to throw yourselves out there in a role like this where you're able to help out the organization. So very much appreciated for both of you. Davis, how about you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, Corey. So, hi, I'm Davis Levy. I'm a candidate for the Desert Mountain Regional Vice President. And I live in Tempe, Arizona, born and raised in Arizona, as I like to call. I'm an Arizona native. My friends make fun of me for always bragging about that. But I was initiated at the Zeta Omega chapter in Flagstaff, Arizona in fall of 2016, brother for my entire college career. And I was immediately a district director for my home chapter for 3 years, where then after that, I ran for RVP 2 years ago. And so here we are today. And a little bit about me personally. I love to be outside, outdoors in the sunshine. Like to hang out with my dog, really my parents' dog, but still my own. And I enjoy going on hikes and relaxing by the pool. Especially excited for the Palm Springs pool, and can't wait for that. And for work, professionally, I work as a financial advisor with Silverhawk Private Wealth in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a new job I recently started, and yeah, that's about me.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Davis, why don't you continue for us? Tell us your why in wanting to be a grand officer.
Yeah, not only do I want to be a grand officer, but I'm rerunning to be reelected as a grand officer. And firstly, I met all the promises that I made 2 years ago, standing before the delegates of the Desert Mountain region, and so I said what I was going to do, but I want to build off that. I want to continue where we are now so that we can continue pushing the Desert Mountain region forward. And so that every chapter is in a better place 2 years from now than it is today. Just like 2 years ago, I feel like right now we're in a better place than we were 2 years ago. So I just want to continue building and moving forward each and every one of our chapters. And with that in mind, I just want to continue giving back to you all. Like I've had fun these past 2 years getting to know all of our collegiate members and working with our alumni district directors. And I always say that if we're not having fun in Delta Sig, there's really no points. None of us would be here if we weren't having fun. And I've had fun these past 2 years, and I can see that you all have had too. Fun, and I want to, let's keep building off that.
Excellent. Thanks, Dave. Sam, how about you? What's your why?
Yeah. Coming into this role, having served in the RVP position for several years prior to my 2 years off here, I had the opportunity to really get to know and work with a large number of people throughout the organization that are really passionate in improving the lives of our collegiates. And I think my why always goes back to that this is first and foremost a collegiate organization. Though most of our folks here on the call are alumni, I think I would be remiss in saying like my why really stems from the collegiate experience. And we are in significantly unprecedented times today that have drastically changed the workforce that our students are going into in just the past couple of years with the rise of artificial intelligence, technology. The world and the workforce that our students are going into looks drastically different, and they deserve an education and the best opportunity to thrive and succeed. And I think Delta Sigma Pi is uniquely positioned in supporting them and improving their lives as they get prepared to graduate and go out into the workforce. Additionally, we're facing into a job market that is where students that are newly graduated with degrees are now facing higher unemployment rates than the national average. And I see that Delta Sigma Pi is a place that we can help our students grow and build and beat those odds that they are facing into. And it's really at the top of their minds. And I want to be able to work with our collegiate chapters to produce an experience for their students to not only improve what they get out of their collegiate experience, but also moving into their professional lives and increasing their visibility and preparedness for the workforce at large.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And then next question for you both, Sam, if you want to start off on this one. So since submitting your nomination, what efforts have you put forth to prepare you for day one in your role?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously I'm very familiar with the RVP role, having already served in this capacity prior, but I have already started reaching out to the current RVP in this position and starting to dip my feet into what is going on in our collegiate chapters, understanding where they currently are, where are the current struggles that they are facing, in addition to starting to read up on the new policies that are being implemented in regards to the collegiate health indicators, reading the reports that are being sent out by our central office staff, as well as continuing to remain like actively engaged with those that are running for grand officer positions as well across the board, and just reaching out to any collegiates and grand officers that are willing to have conversations so that I am ready to get started on day one with the rest of the team.
Thank you, Sam. Welcome in, Tim. Tim, I'll ask Davis this question, then I'll give you a chance to share a little bit about yourself and your why, and then we'll start off with the next question with you, if that's all right. Sweet. Sounds good. So Davis, how about you? Since, submitting your nomination, what efforts have you put forth in order to be ready for day one?
Yes, so I have worked to begin understanding how this new health indicator for our collegiate chapters works, and starting to go through it with my district director team, those that are committed to remaining appointed for the next school year. And with my DD team in mind, I've have a meeting with them and then continuing to meet with those that I haven't had a chance to yet since summer started, on going into the next school year, and making sure we have a plan to hit the ground running, when school starts for each one of our chapters. And that way we're not spending a month trying to figure out where we're at, what do we need to get done, but also making sure that they know what to expect coming into this role again. So some things might be different this year. I did learn some things that these past 2 years, and I want to do a couple things different, which I'll get into the next question. But using the summer to prepare for this upcoming school year, and really have a solid plan.
Excellent. Thank you. We have another RVP candidate join us, Tim Beasley. Tim, do you want to give us a little background on yourself, personal, professional, fraternal, and if you'd want to share your why in wanting to run for a position of Grand Officer. So thanks for being willing to do that once again. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here tonight.
Of course. Yeah, I just got off work and got in the door, so I'm hoping my tech is not having issues. There's all kinds of updates and stuff happening behind the scenes here, so it's annoying. And I've got a wild cat that just won't stop trying to jump on camera too. So you're going. So see, there she goes. Okay. Yeah, Tim Beasley, Pacific Coast Regional Vice President. This would be my third term in the role, fourth term overall as an RVP. I guess what kind of keeps bringing me back to the table is just trying to set an example for my students. This has been like the longest continual piece of my life that I've ever had besides childhood friends. But as far as an organization or a job or any kind of volunteer service, this has been the main thing since day one. It's a big piece of my life, a big piece of my heart. So I keep coming back to it. I want to establish some more consistency in our region, build up some more relationship and get people back. But COVID really did a toll on us, and really kind of changed the face of the game in general. So trying to get our chapters back to what used to be our norm, and try to pull back on a lot of the advancements that aren't actually taking us anywhere, and trying to get us back to just the basics of what is Delta Sig. We're supposed to emulate the business world, and I think we've got too focused on too many other things that are happening out in the world, and we just need to get back to the basics. And so I'm trying to instill that in my chapters for our organization, is just do the simple things right, and you'll start to begin to really increase that ROI for your chapter members.
Do appreciate that, Tim. And then if you want to kick us off with our next question too, is tell us about how you would plan to set expectations, provide resources, and hold your team accountable.
So I guess there's two sides. Well, there's three sides of that, right? I look at my team as my district directors, my team as my chapter officers, and my team as my other RVPs around me. So in terms of sharing resources, I don't like to be the person that goes, here's the thing. I want to show you where it's at. I want to show you how to get to it, so that you can then show others how to find that resource. I like to create SMEs and not be the SME. So I want to make sure I get the right resources into people's hands and show them how to find those things, whether that's in my DD team so that they can answer questions and everyone's not running to me, or at my chapter level with my officers so that they feel prepared to tell their chapters how things are supposed to be run, or here's the resources so we can look it up ourselves. And then with my RVP, counterparts, making sure we're all on the same page and we have a consistent push forward. All of our regions are different, but the way we go about it should be relatively similar. And so being a senior on the team at this point, if I do win again and I come back and we have a whole bunch of handful of people, it's kind of like working with new chapter officers and just making sure everyone's got all the resources that they need to feel successful in their job as well. So really helping people find the resources versus handing it to them is what I prefer to do.
That's great. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Davis, how about you? Talk to us about expectations, resources, accountability.
Yes, of course. So, like I said in my last question, I learned a few things over the past 2 years in my first term as RVP. One of those being, this go around, if I'm reelected, I want to have written expectations for my leadership team of district directors. Not to say that I didn't have them these past 2 years, but it was all verbal. It was all reminders over the phone, over a Zoom call. And so this way we can start the biennium with electronic documents of what I expect of my district directors, but also what they expect of me as their RVP. And make sure that we have a one-on-one conversation about it to make sure that we're on the same page and answer any questions about it. But just have a stronger, cohesive relationship together as we work together for the next school year. And yeah, and then that's really it, and continue having regular check-ins, every week, every 2 weeks with my DDs to see what's going on with my chapters in the region. I live in Arizona, but far away from New Mexico and very, very far from El Paso. So, they're the ones that are close and boots on the ground where I'm far away. So I want to stay, connect with them on a regular basis, as I did the past 2 years.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Sam, how about you? Same question.
Yeah. The Pacific Northwest is uniquely distributed in terms of its size, perhaps the most distributed in the entire country, given that we've got some pretty large terrain to cover, including some of the Pacific Ocean. So I know that in this role, you really have to master the art of helping your team in a kind of one-off fashion. I do intend to hold my team accountable and to group them together, but oftentimes with the differences in time zones and space just at large, that is not always possible in the Pacific Northwest region. So I tend to approach the kind of management and support of my region similar to how I do in my professional life of maintaining a normal and regular cadence of phone or video call discussions for distributing out large amounts of information or significant impact of information, and then additionally distributing kind of reminders and check-ins with my team over email, Slack, additional kind of like text forms of communication. I found kind of tends to work best for this particular region. In addition to just kind of the day-to-day operational focus of the region, working with the rest of the province, I think is another significant part of the RVP role. And I think as Tim and Davis have kind of alluded to, at least in my past experience on this team, have done a really good job of distributing out major operational focuses for all chapters and kind of helping our team to not all be doing the same types of things within our region, but distributing out, reviewing legislation and being able to kind of bring that back in and kind of, as Tim said, sort of teach the teacher, don't want to be the SME of everything, because we all can't know everything all of the time. So I would really love to help to support and see that continue as well within the Western province at large. And I hope that that really helps to keep not only our district director teams accountable, but also ourselves accountable internally as grade officers for this province as well.
That's great. Appreciate that, Sam, and everybody. There's a couple other questions I have prepared that were in that original email, so I'll kind of pause here to see if there's any questions that the audience has that wants to toss those in the chat, and we can go about those and prioritize those first. Otherwise, I can look into some more of this forward thinking couple questions that were in there and put you all on the spot a little bit, see what your thoughts and ideas are here. But I'll talk a little bit slower to see if anybody's typing in the chat for any questions. That's anything. Here we go. From Steven, looks like specific for Sam, but we'll open it up with you first and then see if any other folks have thoughts on this. But any thoughts on growth of chapters within the region?
Yeah, definitely. The region is ripe with opportunities, though we have faced into unique challenges with expansion. I know during one of my first terms, we had some pretty good interest in the Seattle University campus that kind of fizzled out, as well as we have a good number of campuses in the Washington region, though the key struggle that I know we face into within these areas is that a vast majority of the alumni support that is really and truly necessary for helping to stand up these startup groups don't have a tendency to stick around in the college towns that we're looking to expand to. And so a lot of my focus is on schools that are also already near to existing chapters. So being able to partner them with existing groups. So things like Seattle University, which is just, all of 10 minutes down the road from the University of Washington. Also looking at, I think it's the University of Idaho, but it might be Idaho University, but it is all of maybe 20 minutes down the road from Washington State University, trying to look at strategically where we can create partnerships within universities that are close in proximity to be able to maximize on the alumni support and kind of communal effort that these startup groups typically tend to require. But absolutely, yes, Stephen, I 100% would love to watch this region grow. We have a lot of opportunity here.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for being able to answer that question on the spot. Thanks, Stephen, for answering. Before we move on to other question in the chat here, is there anybody, Davis or Tim, any thoughts on expansion in your regions?
I haven't thought too much about it other than the fact that maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was maybe right before COVID, the RVP before me, David Pratt, was considering trying to go into the private university, Grand Canyon University. The only thing is it'd be very difficult because they have no Greek life at all on their campus whatsoever. And so we would have to break that barrier to try and get in to them. But I haven't really thought more about it, but that's that.
Thanks, Davis. Tim, I'll leave that expansion up to you if you want to answer that. And then there's another question here that you can lead into on, what things are we doing that you think we need to take a step back from?
So As far as expansion, so I closed 2 of my chapters in the most recent year. So um, we are eligible to go back to UC Riverside. So I would like to start that conversation, and I plan on actually starting that conversation with staff right after hopefully at Grand Chapter when I win, not if I win. Just kidding. But want to make sure we go back there. I just don't know what status we're in with the school because we left off in a really weird place. My region is San Diego County, Orange County, and Riverside County, which is also called the Inland Empire. We have no schools in the Inland Empire right now because we closed them. So looking at going back to UCR, looking into Cal Baptist, which is also out in Riverside, in San Diego counties, looking at Point Loma Nazarene, which is a very private, very Christian school. So they've had some issues with fraternities in the past, but I would still love to see kind of where they're at, especially with our org having no, we don't have political affiliations, we don't have religious affiliations, we don't allow for Greek housing, like we don't put our letters out there like other orgs do. So I think we could fit there well, but we don't know. Cal State San Marcos would be an interesting one. And then I've jokingly talked with other RVPs about recarving up the lines down here to readjust a couple chapters back into Pac Coast that I think would fit really well and allow South Pac to have a little bit more, a little more breathing room since they're so big. So there's some options there. I know we've had some nibbles at a couple of those schools, and we've let those embers fan out, and so we need to try to rekindle that. But I think we also need to reconnect with our most recent alumni base and our current collegiate base to try to see what family members or friends they might have at some of those schools to have an easier expansion time. And that just takes time and manpower and effort. So unfortunately, it hasn't been something I've been able to focus on the last couple of years because I've just been focused on trying to keep chapters open and keep them. The last 2 got closed because of hazing issues. So trying to get the risk management in check and keep it in check at the other chapters and then get them into a nice stable place has been the priority. But as far as the other question that's in the chat, I feel like that's a much larger question with maybe a fizzy drink in hands to have a conversation about. It's a broad spectrum question. I think where my chapters, I'll say where they're focusing their efforts too much is trying to do giant things. They're taking on too much. I think this might be a conversation about the national organization as well. Just taking on too much and forgetting the roots of the organization, forgetting what you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and thinking about these giant, grandiose plans. We need to get back to being able to operate well, do a chapter meeting well, do a professional event that actually means something, do a community service event that builds connection with your community. Not just doing things to get CMP check marks, not just doing things to say, hey, look what we did, not doing it for Instagram clout. I come from, I think most of us, if not all of us, come from a time where Instagram wasn't a thing when we were in school. Maybe Davis is probably the only one here that had Instagram in school. But like doing things for the clicks was not what we used to do. We did it so that we learned. And I think a lot of my chapters, at least, have gotten away from learning through the organization, and they do it just as a social org. I hear the word club way too often. So I think just going back to really understanding who we are and what we are is what we need to do. But that's, again, a much broader conversation, a much more in-depth conversation could be had at Grand Chapter, and I'll see you all there.
Thanks, Kelly, for the question. Thanks for the response on that. Tim, I don't know how much of us appreciate the Instagram piece of it, but you were right in my instance, at least. So it's true.
Tim's just calling me old now is what I'm taking away from this.
That sounds like something you all can talk about a
Collectively,
Grand
we're
Chapter
old.
too. All right. I will, I don't see anything else in the chat, but I do want to ask the group this question, if you're all willing for an extra question that was in that email that we asked the board candidates. I'd be curious to see what you all think if you're willing to share. But how would you ensure our strategy from an organizational standpoint is both visionary and actionable? Let you all ponder that for a moment, and whoever wants to go first can go ahead and chime in since it wasn't an anticipated ask.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, how would you ensure that our our vision as an organization is both visionary and actionable. Excuse me, our strategy is both visionary and actionable. See, this is when Kelly could play the Jeopardy music. Who wants
Why
to
don't-
jump in?
I'll jump in.
Yeah, Sure.
I'll be the sacrificial first go around. I think to what has kind of been talked about here tonight, lots of things have changed in the last 3 to 5 years post coming out of the pandemic. We've noticed significant changes in collegiate culture, workforce culture, and what students are truly looking for in their experience at large with DSP. I know I've heard it in my discussions with collegiates, and even with our alumni chapters, where I've watched both the death and now like subsequent semi-rebirth that is happening in the Seattle area of our alumni groups here as well. And so I think, Corey, for your question of like, how do we create a good vision for our organization, I think we really need to get to the root of what are our members truly looking for out of their experience with Delta Sigma Pi. For my collegiate students, I've noticed a significant increase of wanting more meaningful and robust professional experiences, like what Tim alluded to, of like really designing professional events that cater to the careers and the professional world that they're all going to. For alumni, I'm hearing much more about how like our events that we put on for our kind of yearly cycle of events between leads and provincial conferences don't necessarily cater to their experience of where they're at in their careers, and it's much more of a social hour. And so I think to make a vision actionable, we really need to get to the root of what individually, and I think we need to break apart the collegiate and the alumni experience into kind of meaningful root. I'm going to go into my work lingo, the meaningful root causes of what they're truly looking for at the heart of their experiences and what they want to take away. And then to make that actionable is truly about breaking those into meaningful and most importantly, small chunks that we can say. Typically, big vision goals are difficult to achieve in a very shortened period of time, especially even with a couple of years and with teams that are largely volunteer based. We all have our own day jobs and our own lives that we're working on. And so it's not reasonable that we'll say we're going to deliver a mass vision in a single year, but being able to say we can achieve our mass vision in a couple of years, and then we will take incremental steps and in improving the experience that our students and our alumni have each semester, every few months, to be able to show that the needle does move if it's not moving all at once.
Appreciate that. Thanks for going first as well on that spontaneous question. That's appreciated. Davis, Tim, which one of you two want to go next?
I think I'll say something real quick. So Sam and I play Dungeons and Dragons on a regular basis. I think she just rolled a nat 20, which means it's a perfect score. I couldn't say anything more about that. like honing in on what we're supposed to be doing and really breaking it down into its individual pieces, I think is where we've gone a little askew. We're thinking too big, too broad, and we need to get back to the why behind the what. If we're only focused on the what, we lose the heart of the organization. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but can't really say much more.
Sounds good. Davis, how about you?
Yes. So I've been kind of thinking about this in two different parts. So I graduated, right at the start of COVID, spring 2020, and I was excited. I was like, I just found out I was going to be a district director and all that. And in the past few years, there's been a lot of changes in our organization, with the fraternity overall, and learning new things. It's frustrating for anyone. I came out of college being an expert on individual discipline policy, all for it to change and I have to relearn it. Not only relearn it, but teach it to my district directors. When I get questions to me, there's like, I don't know, let's figure it out together. That being said, myself and my team, other DDs, we need to, put that work in so that we could make it easier for our students to understand. But and then on the other side of it is like how well are our chapters, maybe mine specifically in Desert Mountain, how well are they living up to our fraternity purpose? How well can they point to different activities and events that they're holding that help meet that purpose and in turn meet the needs of the members, all members, ones that just got initiated as second semester freshmen, but also those that are, 1 foot out the door about to graduate, um, doing everything we can to make sure that every member feels like that they got their money's worth. Our students are the ones that are paying their dues on a semesterly basis. you know they a lot of them don't even have like jobs to pay for their dues and all that, so they're the ones who they're putting the hard work. Us, alumni, we're here giving back because we enjoy it, we have fun, but also we want to continue building out the organization that we got to enjoy off in college. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Appreciate those answers. And then Steven's got a question for everybody in the chat. If we see the importance of alumni chapter support existing and growth, he's curious on your thoughts about this approach and the newly launched corporate alumni chapter. What are your thoughts about activating alumni communities at corporations? Thoughts, pros, cons? Tim, why don't you start this one?
Ooh, I might be a dissenting opinion here. I think the kind of harkening back to something Sam said, like looking at both the collegiate structure and the alumni structure, I think we need to have separate conversations there about what are the goals of these chapters and these within the organization, what benefit do they give, what voice should they have, and how we should go about formulating that. And so I think there needs to be a conversation over the next few years of what we do with that. Personally, I'm not a proponent for corporations having chapters there. If you want to have alumni groups, totally fine. We had affiliate groups for years that didn't really kick off or do anything. I think if you want to have, I've been in so many different alumni groups. I mentioned playing D&D with Sam. That's a group of alumni that does that and stemmed off a different group of alumni during COVID. I've been in Pokemon groups. I've been in video poker groups. I've been in all kinds of different groups. I think there's a difference between groups and affiliate programs and resource groups and things like that versus chapters in the sense of how we use that word now. I think the alumni voice is a little too strong in a collegiate organization. I think we need to be there to provide support and backbone, but our collegiates need to be driving and steering this ship with our support. I don't think we need more alumni chapters, and I should say specifically voting alumni chapters when they don't work directly with a specific area or something like that. I think there needs to be a larger conversation about that. I understand we're trying the pilot program. I'm not opposed to trying new things. I think just additional conversations need to be had about what does that mix look like in 27 and 29 and 31 and so on and so forth. What's our plan for this? Are we trying to have 10 alumni groups at major corporations in one major city? Or are we trying to spread this around? Because at some point, if you have 5 alumni groups in different organizations in LA, what support are they giving to the collegiate chapters that you couldn't do if you're just part of LA alumni chapter? So I think we need to have a much larger conversation around it. And I'm always down for support. I would love it if our alumni supported our collegiate chapters more. It boggles my mind that people take advantage of the organization and then move on and they don't want to give back. That's why I'm still here, right? I love it. So it throws me off. So I would love any kind of support we can get, but in a formalized chapter setting, I think a bigger conversation needs to be taking place before we move all the way towards that arena.
Davis, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I really like the idea like of a corporate alumni chapter type group or setup, because our current alumni chapters, they're like nothing's changed over time, and I don't really know what value it's adding to alumni, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, 2 years ago in the Desert Mountain region, we only had one alumni chapter. That was Phoenix Thunderbird. And I seeked out to reactivate the 2 others in my region that over the next 2 years. And I did do that thank you, Anna, for helping reactivate Albuquerque alumni chapter. But my vision, the way I see our current setup for alumni chapters, is a mechanism to capture graduating seniors so that if they have any inkling of interest in staying involved in any way, let's go and grab them and just get them to stay a member. That way they have a better chance of staying involved or hopefully giving back in some leadership position later on if they're not able to after graduation. But for any older alumni, I'm not sure what value alumni chapter has other than social activity, like catching up, meeting up, and all that. So I think it's a neat idea. I'm excited to hopefully that the fraternity explores this and tries to seek it out in the best way possible. But I also like what Tim said, that making sure that our collegiate chapters continue to steer the fraternity the way they see fit, not letting alumni to take over and disregard what collegiates are thinking.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Sam, close us out on that question.
Yeah. I think I will echo probably what Tim and Davis have said here. I think on the positive side, the interest in creating alumni chapters within the context of corporations speaks to what I have kind of said throughout this discussion, of that there is a strong desire for community and engagement from our alumni group across the country. And I am excited and thrilled to see that this group, that is our kind of pilot group, is pushing the bounds and challenging the notion that the standard alumni group is working for the vast majority of our base. I think it clearly is calling out that it probably doesn't for a large number of our alumni. For me, though, similar to what Tim said, it does call into question, like, I don't know that if an official chapter truly is the end all, like, result of basically doing the same thing just in a slightly different context. In my mind, like, a broken problem moved slightly to the left still inevitably will remain broken. And from a con perspective, I'll echo, like, I think we are remiss as alumni if we say that the alumni voice isn't already louder and more outspoken than some of our collegiate voices are, especially at events like Grand Chapter Congress and like at provincial conferences when you're talking legislation. And I truly believe that our collegiate voices should be steering these conversations when it comes to legislation, because it ultimately impacts them at the greatest level. But that being said, like, I'm really excited to see from the corporate alumni approach, like what learnings and engagement comes out of this, and how we can apply some of that excitement and engagement and learnings to a larger conversation around how do we truly re-engage in a better fashion with our alumni groups, because it is clearly not working today. And I think that is a larger conversation that I would love to drive in with our provincial team to the board to have a more in-depth conversation around what can we truly do to engage with and provide to our alumni the experience that they are so desperately looking for with the fraternity after they graduate.
Appreciate the input, folks. Very much appreciated. So we're coming up to our time here. So wanna give keep saying someone called that out the other day, that when I was doing these, I just kept saying, so now I'm self-conscious and I'm still doing it. Pause, refocus. Okay. Thank you, Sam, Davis, Tim. Appreciate your willingness to be here this evening. Share your insights to the questions and putting yourselves out there for one of these roles. That's very much appreciated. Tim's got a special question in the chat for everybody. Want to remind the folks that are running for board positions and for RVP positions that we do have trainings in advance of Grand Chapter Congress coming up here for you. So if you've not seen those, make sure to take a look at your inboxes. And if you have any questions on those or haven't seen those invites, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody else on the nominations committee, and we get you in touch with the right folks there. We're also going to have caucuses at Grand Chapter Congress. Reminder that those caucuses and elections are moved earlier in the time frame for this year compared to years past. And we'll also have training sessions at Congress in person for folks that are put into those positions from the election. So that's some exciting changes there and moving us forward and seeing where we are with all of that. And, you know, Palm Springs Grand Chapter Congress is only a couple, 2-3 weeks away. So very exciting to see all of you in person in the heat and advancing our organization forward, and looking forward to all the decisions you're all going to make in order to make that happen. And I think those are all of the announcements I wanted to share. So again, candidates, appreciate your willingness to be here and putting yourselves out there for those grand officer roles. Important work for the organization, so very much appreciated. And for anybody that is ever interested in looking at those positions in the future, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the nominations committee members. And that will conclude this evening, and I will see you all in sunny Palm Springs in not too long of time. Appreciate you all. Take care.